The champagne shimmered on the floor, reflecting the harsh overhead lights of the banquet hall like a pool of crimson. It wasn't champagne, though, was it? Just spilled party drinks mixing with something far more metallic. Around me, the music still thumped, oblivious. They hadn't seen the look on my face yet. They didn't know what I was capable of. They thought they had won. They thought the years of casual cruelty, the dismissive smirks, the constant belittling had finally broken me. They were wrong. Dead wrong. If you've ever felt betrayed by your own family, subscribe and share your story. My sister, Bethany, always had a way of making me feel small. Even as kids, it was like she was bathed in sunlight and I was forever stuck in her shadow. She was the golden child, beautiful, charming, and effortlessly successful. I was Heather, just Heather. The one who handled the details, the one who made sure everything ran smoothly in the background, never quite measuring up to Bethany's dazzling brilliance. I worked as an admin assistant, a job I actually enjoyed, finding satisfaction in organizing and problem solving. But to my family, it was just another example of my lack of ambition, a testament to my supposed ordinariness. The engagement party was in full swing, a lavish affair thrown by Bethany's fiancé's wealthy parents. I had helped with the planning, of course, coordinating vendors, managing RSVPs, and generally ensuring everything was perfect. I'd even swallowed my pride and smiled, genuinely happy for Bethany, despite the familiar sting of being overlooked. That's when it happened. Bethany, flushed with excitement and a little too much champagne, grabbed the microphone. "I want to thank everyone for coming," she gushed, her voice amplified through the speakers. "Especially my amazing sister Heather. You know, she's always been so helpful. Someone has to handle the admin work, right?" The laughter rippled through the crowd, sharp and cruel. My face burned. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the ornate wallpaper and cease to exist. It wasn't just the words, but the way she said them, the dismissive tone that reduced me to nothing more than a punchline. Later, mingling near the bar, I overheard my parents chuckling with some of Bethany's friends. "Heather's such a sweetheart," my mother said, her voice dripping with condescension. "But let's be honest, she'll never amount to anything like Bethany." My father nodded in agreement, patting my mother's hand. "She's just not driven, you know, happy to be a supporting character." I turned away, the words echoing in my head like a broken record. Happy to be a supporting character. That's all they saw me as. The humiliation was a familiar ache, a constant companion throughout my life. But this time, something shifted. A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach, a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't let them define me anymore. I wouldn't let their casual cruelty chip away at my self-worth. I would show them that Heather, the admin, was capable of far more than they could ever imagine. As the night wore on, I forced a smile, refilled glasses, and made small talk, all the while meticulously cataloging every slight, every condescending remark. I was gathering ammunition, building a fortress of resentment that would soon become my weapon. They thought I was broken. They thought I was defeated. But they underestimated the power of a quiet woman pushed too far. They didn't see the storm brewing behind my eyes. The person I trusted most was one of them. The days that followed were a blur of forced smiles and hollow apologies. Bethany, seemingly oblivious to the depth of my hurt, continued to bask in the glow of her engagement. She'd call me, not to apologize, but to ask for help with wedding planning, casually tossing out requests like I was her personal assistant. Each interaction was a fresh wound, a stinging reminder of my place in her world, a convenient tool, an afterthought. I tried talking to my parents, hoping for some understanding, some acknowledgement of the pain their words had caused, but they brushed it off as sibling rivalry, telling me to be the bigger person and support Bethany during this important time. Their dismissal was a punch to the gut, a confirmation that my feelings were irrelevant, that Bethany's happiness was all that mattered. Sleepless nights became the norm. I'd lie in bed replaying the scene at the engagement party, the laughter echoing in my ears, the weight of their expectations crushing me. The humiliation morphed into a simmering rage, a burning desire to prove them wrong, to shatter their carefully constructed perception of me. I started avoiding family gatherings, making excuses to stay home. The constant comparisons to Bethany, the subtle digs at my career, the general feeling of inadequacy, it was all too much to bear. But my absence only seemed to fuel their narrative, reinforcing their belief that I was somehow lacking, that I couldn't handle Bethany's success. One evening, Bethany came over unannounced, her eyes red and puffy. "I need your help," she sobbed, collapsing onto my couch. "I messed up." Apparently, she'd been having an affair with one of her fiancé's best friends, and the guilt was eating her alive. She confessed everything, detailing the secret rendezvous, the stolen moments, the web of lies she'd spun. As she spoke, a strange sense of calm washed over me. This wasn't sympathy, it was opportunity. Bethany, the golden child, the perfect daughter, was flawed, deeply flawed, and I, the overlooked admin assistant, held the key to her downfall. I listened patiently, offering tissues and empty platitudes, all the while calculating my next move. "You need to tell him," I said finally, my voice carefully devoid of emotion. "He deserves to know the truth." Bethany recoiled, her eyes wide with panic. "I can't. It would ruin everything. The wedding, my reputation, everything." I feigned concern, urging her to do the right thing, knowing full well that she wouldn't. Her secret was a ticking time bomb, and I was determined to be the one to detonate it. The next few weeks were a delicate dance. I continued to play the supportive sister, offering advice and assistance with the wedding plans, all while subtly gathering information about Bethany's affair. I befriended some of her closest confidants, fishing for details, piecing together the puzzle of her betrayal. The more I learned, the more my resolve hardened. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about exposing the truth, about shattering the illusion of perfection that Bethany had so carefully cultivated. I started documenting everything, screenshots of text messages, recordings of phone calls, anything that could be used as evidence. I knew that what I was doing was risky, but I couldn't stop. The thought of Bethany getting away with her deception, of continuing to bask in the adoration of her family and friends, was unbearable. They all needed to know the truth. They needed to see her for who she really was. The weight of Bethany's secret, combined with my family's constant dismissal, became unbearable. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of their expectations and judgments. The wedding loomed closer, a glittering monument to a lie, and I felt trapped, suffocating under the pressure of my own silence. One particularly bleak afternoon, I received a call from my grandmother, Bethany's and my mom's mother. She was in the hospital, her voice weak and frail. She asked if I could come visit, saying she had something important to tell me. I rushed to her bedside, my heart heavy with dread. My grandmother had always been my safe harbor, the one person in my family who saw me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. As I sat beside her, holding her hand, she struggled to speak. "Heather," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Your mother, she wasn't always kind." She paused, her breath catching in her throat. "Bethany," she reminds me of her, always wanting to be the center of attention, always at someone else's expense. I squeezed her hand, urging her to continue. "Don't let them do to you what they did to me," she rasped. "You are strong, stronger than you know. Don't let them break you." With that, she closed her eyes, her grip on my hand loosening. The monitors beeped frantically, and nurses rushed into the room. I stood there, frozen, as they worked to revive her. But it was no use. My grandmother was gone. The one person who truly believed in me was gone, and I felt utterly alone. Her words, however, echoed in my mind. Don't let them do to you what they did to me. What had they done to her? The question haunted me as I walked out of the hospital, the sterile smell of antiseptic clinging to my clothes. I drove home in a daze, the city lights blurring through my tears. I felt like I was standing at the edge of an abyss, the darkness threatening to consume me. The funeral was a blur of black dresses and forced condolences. Bethany, of course, was the picture of grief, sobbing dramatically and clinging to her fiancé for support. My parents hovered around her, offering comfort and praise,
oblivious to the pain I was feeling. As I watched them, a wave of anger washed over me, so intense it felt like a physical blow. They didn't care about me. They never had. I was just a supporting character in their carefully scripted drama, a convenient prop to make Bethany shine even brighter. That night, after everyone had left, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the flickering candlelight. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional siren in the distance. I thought about my grandmother, about her quiet strength and unwavering love. And I thought about Bethany, about her lies and betrayals, about the way she had manipulated and used me my entire life. A decision formed in my mind, cold and hard as steel. I wouldn't let them break me. I wouldn't let them define me. I would fight back. I would expose the truth, no matter the cost. The first step was to gather more evidence. I knew that Bethany had been exchanging explicit messages with her lover, but she was always careful to delete them. I needed to find a way to access her phone without her knowledge. I spent hours researching online, poring over articles and forums, searching for a solution. Finally, I stumbled upon a program that claimed to be able to mirror a phone's data onto a computer. It was risky and potentially illegal, but I was desperate. I downloaded the program and waited for my opportunity. A few days later, Bethany came over to discuss the wedding plans. She left her phone on the coffee table while she went to the kitchen to make tea. This was my chance. I quickly installed the program on her phone, praying that she wouldn't notice. The installation was complete just as she returned, humming cheerfully. I acted casual, making small talk about the flower arrangements and the seating chart, all the while my heart pounding in my chest. After she left, I rushed to my computer and launched the program. To my relief, it worked. Bethany's entire phone was mirrored on my screen. Her texts, her emails, her photos, everything. I scrolled through her messages, my stomach churning with disgust. There they were, the explicit exchanges with her lover, the incriminating evidence I needed to expose her lies. I saved everything onto a secure hard drive, making sure to delete the program from my computer and her phone. The risk had paid off.
I now had the ammunition I needed to take down Bethany and shatter her perfect world. Their biggest weakness? They thought they were untouchable. I smiled sweetly at Bethany as we finalized the seating chart, the knowledge of her secret affair, a weapon I held close. Every detail of the wedding, every carefully chosen flower and perfectly placed table setting was another layer of the stage I was setting for her downfall. I acted the part of the supportive suitor flawlessly, offering suggestions, running errands, and generally making myself indispensable. All the while, I was meticulously crafting my plan, ensuring that every piece was in place for the perfect moment. The anticipation was almost unbearable, a constant hum beneath the surface of my forced composure. I started recording our conversations, subtly guiding her to reveal more details about the affair, capturing her lies and justifications on tape. I knew that this could be used as evidence, both legally and emotionally, to expose her deception. I even went so far as to hire a private investigator, a discreet and professional woman named Sarah, to gather additional information and confirm my suspicions. Sarah was a master of her craft, skilled in surveillance and information gathering. She uncovered a trail of evidence that painted a clear picture of Bethany's infidelity, providing me with photographs, emails, and even witness testimonies. The more I learned, the more determined I became to expose the truth. The wedding was to be held at a prestigious country club, a sprawling estate with manicured lawns and opulent ballrooms. I knew that the entire event would be meticulously documented, with professional photographers and videographers capturing every moment. This presented both a challenge and an opportunity. I needed to find a way to insert my evidence into the official record to ensure that the truth would be revealed to everyone present. I started researching the venue, studying the layout of the rooms, the locations of the security cameras, and the flow of traffic. I needed to know every detail in order to execute my plan flawlessly. I discovered that the country club had a sophisticated audio-visual system with speakers and screens throughout the venue. This gave me an idea. I could potentially hijack the system and broadcast my evidence during the reception, exposing Bethany's affair to all of her guests. I knew that this was a risky move, but the potential payoff was too great to ignore. I reached out to a friend of mine, Mark, who was a skilled computer programmer.
I explained my plan to him, emphasizing the need for absolute secrecy. Mark was initially hesitant, but after hearing my story, he agreed to help. He wrote a program that would allow me to remotely access the country club's audiovisual system and broadcast my evidence. The program was complex and sophisticated, designed to bypass security measures and prevent detection. I tested it repeatedly, making sure that it was foolproof. I also consulted with a lawyer, a sharp and experienced woman named Emily, to ensure that my actions would not have legal repercussions. Emily advised me on the best way to present my evidence, emphasizing the importance of accuracy and fairness. She also warned me about the potential consequences of defamation and advised me to be prepared for a legal battle. As the wedding day approached, the tension reached a fever pitch. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, balancing my desire for revenge with my fear of getting caught. I continued to play the part of the supportive sister, attending dress fittings, helping with last-minute errands, and generally keeping Bethany calm and happy. All the while, I was secretly preparing for the moment of truth. I uploaded all of my evidence, the text messages, the recordings, the photographs, onto a secure cloud server, ensuring that it would be accessible even if my computer was seized. I also made copies of everything on USB drives, which I hid in various locations, just in case. On the eve of the wedding, I had a final meeting with Sarah and Mark, reviewing every detail of the plan. We went over the timeline, the contingency plans, and the potential risks. We were all nervous, but also determined to see this through to the end. I spent the night tossing and turning, unable to sleep. My mind was racing, replaying every moment of the past few months, every slight, every betrayal. I knew that tomorrow would be the most important day of my life. It was the day that I would finally stand up for myself, the day that I would expose the truth, and the day that I would reclaim my life. The exact day they tried to end me, I exposed the truth. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, a picture-perfect day for a picture-perfect lie. I forced myself to eat something, anything, but the knot in my stomach refused to loosen. As I got dressed, I stared at my reflection, barely recognizing the woman staring back. My eyes were shadowed, my face pale, but there was a steel in my gaze that hadn't been there before. I was ready. At the country club, the air was thick with anticipation. The scent of flowers and expensive perfume hung heavy, mingling with the nervous energy of the guests. Bethany, radiant in her white gown, floated through the crowd, accepting compliments and posing for photos. She looked every inch the blushing bride, completely oblivious to the storm that was about to break. I found Mark and Sarah in a quiet corner, making final adjustments to their equipment. Mark assured me that the program was running smoothly and that he had successfully bypassed the country club's security system. Sarah confirmed that the private investigator team was in place, ready to document the fallout. We exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of the moment. It was time.
As the ceremony began, I took my place in the front row, my eyes fixed on Bethany as she walked down the aisle. Her face was flushed with happiness, her smile dazzling. The music swelled, the guests rose to their feet, and for a moment I almost felt a pang of guilt. Almost. But then I remembered my grandmother's words, "Don't let them do to you what they did to me," and the anger surged back, stronger than ever. The vows were exchanged, the rings were placed, and the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. The crowd erupted in applause, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. This was it. The reception began, and the ballroom buzzed with chatter and laughter. The guests sipped champagne and nibbled on hors d'oeuvres, blissfully unaware of the truth that was about to be revealed. I circulated through the crowd, greeting friends and family, acting as if everything was perfectly normal. But beneath the surface, I was a tightly wound spring, ready to unleash. As the speeches began, I slipped away to a pre-arranged location. From there, I watched the proceedings on a small monitor, waiting for my cue. The best man, one of Bethany's fiancé's closest friends, and also, unbeknownst to everyone but me, her lover, rose to speak. He launched into a glowing tribute to the happy couple, praising their love and commitment. My vision blurred. The moment was now. I gave Mark the signal and he initiated the program. A split second later, the music in the ballroom cut out, replaced by a deafening silence. The best man faltered, his face a mask of confusion.
Then, the screens around the room flickered to life, displaying a series of text messages, explicit, incriminating text messages between Bethany and the best man. A collective gasp swept through the room. All eyes turned to Bethany, who stood frozen, her face draining of color. The best man stammered, trying to explain, but his words were drowned out by the rising murmur of the crowd. Then the audio began, recordings of Bethany's phone calls detailing her affair, her lies, her betrayals. The truth, raw and unfiltered, filled the room. I watched as Bethany's carefully constructed world crumbled around her. Her fiancé stood in stunned silence, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief. Her parents looked on in horror, their faces etched with shame. The guests whispered amongst themselves, their eyes wide with morbid curiosity. Bethany tried to speak, to deny, to explain, but no one was listening. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. Just as the program was ending, a final image flashed across the screen, a photograph of Bethany and the best man in a compromising position. The room erupted. Accusations flew, tears streamed, and chaos reigned. Bethany's fiancé turned to her, his voice low and dangerous. "Is it true?" he asked, his eyes burning with fury. Bethany couldn't meet his gaze. She simply stood there, silent and defeated. He didn't say another word.
He simply removed the ring from his finger and dropped it at her feet. Then he turned and walked away, his head held high. The silence that followed was deafening. All eyes were on Bethany, the golden child, the perfect daughter, now exposed for the fraud she truly was. The exact day they tried to end me. Bethany stood there, a statue carved from shame. Her parents rushed to her side, attempting to shield her from the stares, but the damage was done. The whispers intensified, morphing into open accusations. Guests began to leave, their faces a mixture of disgust and morbid fascination. The perfect wedding, years in the making, had devolved into a public spectacle of betrayal and deceit. The country club manager, his face pale with panic, hurried over to try and restore order, but it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no putting it back in the box. I watched it all unfold, a sense of cold satisfaction washing over me. The years of manipulation, the constant belittling, the ultimate betrayal, it had all led to this moment. They had thought they could use me, discard me, and get away with it. They were wrong. As the last of the guests trickled out, leaving Bethany and her parents alone in the wreckage of their shattered dreams, I approached them. Bethany's face was streaked with tears, her eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and despair. "How could you do this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I looked at her, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered all the time she had made me feel small, all the lies she had told, all the pain she had inflicted. The sympathy vanished, replaced by a steely resolve. "You did this to yourself," I said, my voice cold and unwavering. "You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." I turned and walked away, leaving them to wallow in their misery. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Bethany lost her job, her friends, and her reputation. Her fiancé filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Her parents, once pillars of the community, became pariahs, ostracized by their social circle. The country club, eager to distance itself from the scandal, revoked their membership. Bethany's carefully constructed world had completely collapsed, leaving her with nothing but the bitter taste of her own deceit. I, on the other hand, found myself surrounded by support. Friends and family who had witnessed Bethany's behavior over the years rallied around me, offering their love and encouragement. I finally felt seen, heard, and validated. The truth had set me free. The local news picked up the story, and it quickly went viral. People were fascinated by the tale of betrayal and revenge, and opinions were divided. Some condemned my actions, calling them cruel and vindictive. Others applauded my courage, praising me for standing up for myself. I didn't care what they thought. I had done what I needed to do to protect myself and reclaim my life. In the weeks that followed, I received countless messages from people who had been through similar experiences. They shared their stories of betrayal and abuse, and they thanked me for giving them the courage to speak out. I realized that my actions had resonated with others, that I had become a symbol of hope for those who had been wronged. This gave me a sense of purpose, a reason to keep fighting for justice. The lawyer contacted me some weeks later, indicating that Bethany had tried to take legal action but could not proceed due to the evidence. She moved away some weeks after that. I never saw her again. It was done. The scars of the past may never fully heal, but I had learned to live with them. I had emerged from the darkness, stronger and more resilient than ever before. I had found my voice, and I was determined to use it to help others. As I sat alone in my apartment, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows on the walls, I reflected on the events of the past few months. I had lost a sister, but I had gained something far more valuable: my self-respect. The silence was no longer deafening, but a peaceful quiet, filled with the promise of a brighter future. I learned a valuable lesson: that revenge, while sometimes necessary, is never truly sweet. It's a bitter pill to swallow, a last resort when all other options have been exhausted. It's a tool to be used sparingly and with caution. They lost everything. I just smiled. Revenge isn't sweet. It's necessary. Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more justice.